Hi everyone, Fernando from AbyssalBrews here to talk about the Sonolily. The idea for the Sonolily came about when a mutual friend of ours mentioned that her favorite magic item is the Pot of Awakening. The concept of sentient vegetation led me to think that a plant would be a great spying device. Right away, I pictured a flower that you can give to an NPC as a gift. The NPC would then go about their day, and later you can retrieve the plant and listen to the audio it recorded by cutting into its fruit. There are three things I love: jokes, puns, and podcasts. So I changed the fruits to pods just so I could call the end product a podcast. I asked Matt if having the flower look like a phonograph and using its thorns to play the pods was too on the nose. The idea being that as the plant grows, it's highly sensitive to sound waves, and those sound waves are recorded in its pods in the form of grooves that can be played by the plant itself. A lot of times, if you get too mechanical with how an item works, it can ruin the magic, mystery, and the fun behind it. However, Matt took that idea and changed it to the final design, which makes each pod play itself with a thorn inside it. Matt gave the Sonolily the final touches by making its mechanics fit into the world of D&D, and made sure to balance it by giving some limitations. And after a short exploration of names, he arrived at Sonolily, which we both thought it was perfect. It was fun exploring what this item would look like. I looked at a lot of exotic flowers, pods, and pots for reference and inspiration. I started by designing the flower, then moved on to the pods, and finally the pot. At each stage, I sent Matt the different flower, pod, and pot designs, and picked the final ones based on his feedback. The pot has a leaf motif, which I always associate with forest elves. The base of it is meant to emulate sound waves. Although I'm not sure it fully comes through, I also intentionally didn't want it to be super obvious. We also toyed with the idea of making the flower center a microphone, but we both liked the stems much better in the end. Once we had a winner, I did a bit of color exploration. My first instinct was to keep going down the phonograph path, but it just wasn't working out. I often get in this weird headspace when designing, where my brain insists on going back to the same idea over and over, even if objectively I think it's not good and not the direction we want to go. When this happens, I find it useful to just give in and draw the bad idea. Once it's realized, my brain finally comes down and believes me that it's not the way to go. Drawing something you know you're not going to use may seem like a waste of time, but it's worth it just to get over the obstacle in your mind. Once my brain is happy that we at least gave it a shot, it becomes much easier to get past. Sometimes, and this is very rarely, that stubborn idea does end up being what we go with. And if nothing else, it's a good way to warm up for the actual illustrations. So in other words, drawing something is never a waste of time. At the very least, you practice, learn something from it, and sometimes it ends up being the seed for another idea altogether. No pun intended. After we had the more colorful version, I moved on to the rendering. And this item, unfortunately, was pretty challenging. Not from a technical perspective, but because I just wasn't in a good emotional headspace when I was working on it. And it wasn't because I didn't believe in it. This is one of the few items we put out that is mostly my brainchild, so I was eager and proud to work on it. But sometimes you're just in a rut. Unfortunately, when it comes to production art, you just have to push through and get the work done, even when you're not feeling up to it. I will say, however, that a great way to get motivated is simply to start working on it. I love doing artwork, and as soon as I start doing just a few minutes of it, I get into it, no matter how tired or stressed out I feel. One last design element I'd like to mention is the veins on the leaves. It's subtle, but they are also meant to evoke sound waves. And if you notice, they're pointing towards the main stem, not away from it. This is to illustrate the plant being influenced by the absorption of the sound around it. Okay, I think that's all there is to say about the Sonolily. I know I say this a lot, and every time I mean it, but I am especially proud of this item. I personally think it's a very unique, useful, and fun addition to any campaign. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any feedback, comments, or want to tell us how you use the Sonolily in your game, drop us a line to the Twitter or on our website. I love hearing about how people use our items and systems. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, and if you want to see more of these walkthroughs, subscribe to this channel. I'm going to do a walkthrough for another campfire illustration soon, and in my humble opinion, it's my best work to date. Have fun, be safe, and be happy.